For a top-selling writer, Violet Nicholson's series gets negligibly few visitors. It put in a difficult-to-find angle of one of India's largest untidy colonialist-era cemeteries, a unhappy and neglected location wherever obelisks, crosses and burial sculpture look out of the tight underbrush. The is the Isle, an excess funeral land, in the southern Hindu town of Chinna, before Madras. He's arranged a pair of miles of its 17th-century Mom Chapel, St. Mary's, the senior Anglican chapel not just in Chinna but everywhere east of Suez. Down there is a poetry dimension to Nicholson's Grove funeral place. Her poems, one day extremely famous, are now nearly as neglected as her vacationer location. She belongs to Else era, how recent general of the UK in India whose trust in imperial power was spotless, up war and the growth of nationism heralded a sluggish, unwilling refuge. Nicholson, whose official behalf was Adela Florence Nicholson, shares the serious in her man, Malcolm Nicholson, a retired general in the UK Hindu troop. They dead in Madras during weeks of every sum in 1904. They were both of talented linguists in a profound proximity for India, and Nicholson proposed in her written a strikingly heterodox type of Britain's award empire ownership. She wrote of loving, aspiration, affliction and die, and over all of India, of Punjab and the polar western border in special. She had at first done out how her poems were translations of Sufism-style verse, and she published by a person's behalf, Lawrence Expect. But they were all her own job. Her books sold out dramatically or, time she was never trendy amongst the literature elitists, the Romanist Thomas Enduring was amongst such who pronounced gratitude of her written. Several verses of her, set to piece of music, became massively famous, and stored her behalf and job live in the 1930s. One of these began, "Turn pale hands I favor it, near the Shalimar. I recall my dad sing such channel to no one in special while I was a youthful little boy. It includes a remarkable distich aimed to such turn pale hands, I would quite include thick felt you circle my neck devastating out lifetime, rather than flapping me goodbye." The epic is named Kashmir Chant. Turn pale is a link to the reality how Kashmiris are frequently outlined as equitable-skinned. Down there is an equivocation, maybe intentional, on the sort and race sameness of storyteller and boyfriend. Several of her poems are deep transgressive, address not fair sort and racing, but treachery, damage and the sexy, in ways that we seldom connect in how seemingly passage-laced Edwardian epic. If there was imagination, exotic story or relying in portion on expertise, we fair don't aware. The history of Nicholson's die is both of tragical and deep harassing. Her man was lot older. He necessary a prostate gland transactions, but it went incorrect and the clinic had run out of oxygen supply. A few weeks after, his 39-year-old widowed, in a 4-persons-year-old son in the thoroughness of loved ones in England, took her own lifetime. Rumor wandering quick, and the speech went out how the lyricist, so knowing on Hindu customs officer and bridal, had devoted sati, an old, and length outlawed, Indian tradition of a woman take her own lifetime while her man day. Nicholson's poems obtained in popular following her die, and were published in lot editions, of inexpensive, thin collections to luxury, relief volumes in intricate illustrations. The gloomy, reflecting color of her written seems to include affected a accord in 1920s Britain as the nation desired to go to regulation in the injury of Planet War A. Her sibling, Annie Sophie Corey, was as well a author, with the pen behalf Victoria Crucifix, she wrote colorful novels. Her largest famous, Anna Lombard, published in 1901, is told to include sold out 6 millionth copies. Set in India, keys on a elegant youthful British female who conducted her Hindu man as her boyfriend and when tea offer him up the while she gets betrothed to an acceptable British colonialist administration. Her boyfriend day, but she discovers she is waiting his kid. She marries her British groom and they go off, while the infant is unborn, she realizes how her man can never dwell the residing remind of her Hindu boyfriend. As she suffocates the kid. He's fictitious, of year. But the lurid storyline does do you pausing. The Roman violates so lot of which is anticipated of a exquisite British female in India at the period. You miracle whose anxieties are creature pronounced in the entangle story, and which its insistent business successful says on its audience, how they favorite to be stunned and shocked or, in several vicarious way, requested to stake in the awe, and throw, of a female who crushed the rules. The writings of both of sisters problem several of the usual assumptions on imperial power, on the behavior and experiences of such Britons who done their lives in India. Colonialist graveyards such as St. Mary's are frequently amongst the largest powerful epitaphs of an company that on an large story does not magistrate benevolently, but deep and more profound under how tight mat of flora, and he's emergency which you can discover.